So some of you are maybe still writing this content down. We will come back to this because one of the things that happens is, again, the more practice you put into this, the better you will understand it. At least that is the goal. And that's what I would presume the goal for the content standards would be, and that is dealing with organic compounds. And that's what this chemistry deals with. So a basic question, how is this different than inorganic chemistry? We've said that, I believe, a few times. What's true about each and every one of these compounds? They're all hydrocarbons, okay? So since they are all hydrocarbons, obviously they deal with hydrogen and carbon. That is different from what we've been doing up to this point, which was inorganic chemistry, because that would include something like potassium sulfate, okay? So what is potassium sulfate?
Potassium.
Okay, that means you've got 2 atoms of potassium, 1 atom of sulfur, and then 4 atoms of oxygen. Okay, so the reason we want to bring something like this as an example is, notice there's no hydrocarbons in here, and we don't put a 1 here. You can, you're not wrong, it would just look kind of silly. Just like you can put hydrogens on here, but it's not necessary. Why would that possibly be?
More writing.
Well, it's more writing. Agree.
People would already know that.
It makes it sloppy.
Well, it doesn't make it sloppy. It does what?
It could get a little confusing when you have
Takes up
really-
Well, it would, but again, it's just understood that if you don't have anything here, that what atoms are these? Hydrogens. So then it's just understood that you don't have to put that 1 there, because you already know that you have 1 atom of sulfur. You don't need to write it down again. So again, these are examples of inorganic compounds. Here's another one. Of course, chromium, maybe chromium 3, nitrate, things like that. Those are all inorganic compounds, okay? These are all organic because they deal with the majority of hydrogen and carbon. So we will see who has watched the Science Channel and who isn't, well, or who hasn't. Let me put it that way. If we really, how many of you think you really understand this so far? Okay, what is an isomer? We've talked about that about 3 times.
It's the same formula, just in a different structure.
Okay, so with that context, do you think, are there any isomers up here?
Yeah, they're all isomers.
Can't be. There are some, but not all of them are isomers.
Oh,
There's
no, yeah, there's
3
2 of them.
isomers. 3 isomers.
There could be 3. I know there's 2 for sure, but there might be more than that.
Wait, which one are we looking at? It's the
All of
bottom
them.
left, and then the right and the middle.
All of them. And with that, again, we want to separate you individuals being the haves, not the have-nots. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, let's say, for instance, if you are purchasing a car, okay, wouldn't it be beneficial to know if that was in an accident or if that was in a flood? Because it would be more beneficial. It's not going to cost you as much, okay? Or are you not going to pay for that in the long run? Because you don't want a damaged vehicle. So how does that tie in the haves and the have-nots? We want you to have a good understanding of this for 2 reasons. One, some of you are going to go on to a 4-year college and maybe into some sort of medical program. Wouldn't it be nice to have a good understanding of this and be in the leaders of the class and be the haves and not the tail end, the have-nots. Okay? Because what happens is, for those of you who put time into this, okay, especially going through this curriculum, you'll be the haves, okay, and not the have-nots. And just think, if you take your ACT test score and you do well on that, just a increment number of 1 could be a difference of $5,000 a year. Okay, we want you to be the haves. Now, this also, you might be looking at this and saying, well, I'm never going to use this again. Yeah, I possibly would agree. You probably won't. But it still teaches you to think, okay, and categorize things in your mind, to do problem solving. You're always going to be doing problem solving skills. Always. It doesn't matter whether you're going into any sort of medical field, be a high line worker, power linesman, a diesel mechanic. You're always going to be doing that. Because kind of a neat story that I thought was was got to be true. One of the individuals that I went overseas with was a diesel mechanic, and in the shop that he was working at, had to replace a clutch in one of their trucks, and the only way, there's no access to it. He had to take a cutting torch and cut a hole in the chassis to get access to this clutch. You can't teach that in technical school. That's something that you would have to learn and think and categorize and problem solve in order to do. Well, that you're always going to encounter things like that. So even though this might not be something that you would have to be doing with being a diesel mechanic, it does teach you these problem solving skills. And I can't stress that enough. Okay. So this is where we left off with, okay? So like what you had alluded to, structural isomers. Talking about compounds that have identical chemical formulas but different structures, okay? And we talked about this, and we only spent one slide on multiple bonds, correct? We only briefly introduced it because if it is a compound with multiple bonds, that means it's got a double or a triple bond in there. You have used these substances, you just never knew that you did. For instance, for those of you who were gone, or I should say, maybe that's unfair. For those of you who were here, what is polyethylene?
It's, I don't remember what it is, but I remember it's one of like 4 or 5 isomers.
It's not an isomer, really.
I can't remember what it's called.
Something we can't live without.
Water?
I thought I heard it, I don't know.
Oxygen.
And someone might say, well, I said that. Well, someone might have said it, but I don't know. Not water.
Oh, plastic.
Oh yeah.
Plastic. Okay? It's unfortunate. That plastic is something that doesn't break down or degrade, but it's something that we can't live without either. Okay. So we want to talk a little bit about these aromatic compounds, and then just a couple slides, and then we're going to go through what you had observed up on the board. Okay? And usually when we talk about aromatic compounds, it's something that gives off a specific aroma. Okay? And sometimes if it's something that includes benzene and benzene only, okay, that's not good. Okay? It was at some point over the winter time, there was a manufacturer of some sort of sunscreen, a manufacturer that made sunscreen. There was tests done that said this compound contains benzene. And if it's benzene all on its own, that is what we consider a carcinogen. Does anyone know what possibly a carcinogen is?
Doesn't sound very good.
It's something that can and possibly causes cancer. Now, it used to be that this substance, okay, it has a very good scent. Smells like cherries, if I remember right, okay? And it was a very good solvent for cleaning things. Like if you were to, per se, want to clean a surface, because let's face it, if you have a sticker that's been on the backside of your case of your phone, so you pull that sticker off, but yet there's a lot of sticky material on there. Well, you can't really scrape it off, you can't wash it off, but you could take a solvent and clean that. And this would be a very good solvent for doing that, but the problem is that is going to leach into your skin and probably get into your bloodstream and then different body tissues. It would cause cancer. We don't know why, but something like that has happened, so therefore it's been banned or outlawed. Okay? You cannot buy benzene. We had some benzene down at the previous school. Just had a canister, and it was a really old one, and it said benzene 6. What else?
C6,
C2O3.
No.
Wow.
C6. This is really funny.
No, wait.
H2.
C6. H something.
It's
No.
not 14.
Twenty.
No.
22.
No.
12.
No.
26.
Probably nothing.
H12. H is there. H.
No. There is C6H something.
9.
H2.
No.
Just say
Three.
H something.
4.
No.
H
6,
carbon.
7,
6, 6.
8,
I don't know.
9, 10,
One.
11, 12, 13,
All by
14,
itself.
15, 16,
Someone's. I said it, but
21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26,
Can we just say 14 one more time?
no.
It's not 14.
Boy, we are just not very observant today.
10.
What are we trying to figure out?
24.
The
What is it?
C6H6.
I said that.
Oh,
Tells you that right here.
oh my gosh.
Okay?
I might be stupid.
Okay?
We counted to 50.
Okay? So, one more slide, and then that will be it for today.
Who was it? Who did?
And believe it or not, what will happen for those of you, and I don't mean to, it sounds like I'm singling out individuals that are not going to go to school. That's not our goal. That's not what we're trying to do. But just think of if you are one of those individuals that is going to go on to a 4-year school, when you go to some of these classes, even at a technical school level, you're already expected to know a lot of this material. And if you don't know it, okay, it's not that it's anyone's fault. I mean, it's just unfortunate that maybe some people haven't been introduced to this content. And again, I stress that, I can't stress that enough. If you have such a good understanding of this, you don't have to spend time on this in college. You can spend time on your calculus class. You can spend time on your English class, because you're going to find out that college, and maybe not so much technical school, because there you're taking classes that you actually want to be doing. But that doesn't make the idea that it's going to be easy, okay? Whether it's a wiring class for becoming an electrician, but you're probably going to be more interested in that because, hey, I want to go into the trade school of becoming an electrician. I'm only taking the majority of classes that I actually need, so I'm going to find this more interesting, and that's probably case. But regardless, does everyone have this content that wants it? Okay. So, when it comes to dealing with these compounds, there are certain things that you're going to want to do. We really don't go into the rules of naming these until senior level chemistry because there are so many more aspects that go into this. But at our level, the first thing to do is find what is called the longest continuous chain. Okay? Are there any straight chains up here? And what we mean by a straight chain would be like propane here. That is a straight chain because notice it goes straight and nothing branches off of there. So are there any straight chains? No, there are not. Okay, each and every one of these is a branched chain. So what that means is, for instance, do you want to pick a certain one just at random or what? Which one?
Top left.
Okay. So what is your longest continuous chain here?
6.
Okay. So therefore, you apply what is the prefix for a 6-carbon compound? Okay. So go with this. Is this a saturated compound? Is this a saturated compound? How do you know that it is saturated?
Because there's no multiple bonds.
Correct. Because if there is a multiple bond in there, for instance, like this could be, that is an unsaturated hydrocarbon because it's got a multiple bond in it. Okay? So, you correctly said this is your prefix. So, if everything is single bonded in here, what is the suffix for this organic family? Ends in A-N-E, which means it's a what?
Hexane.
It's an alkane, which I understand what you mean. An alkane. So here is your suffix. Okay? So with what we have so far, this is giving you information. This is saying that everything is single bonded. The organic family is called an alkane. Simple enough, we hope, right? What is this telling you? We understand what you mean. The parent chain is 6. But how many carbons do you have in the entire compound? You actually have 7. But that doesn't make it heptane. This is correct. Is there anything branching off of that hexane?
Yes.
Yes. And that is a specific what group?
Unoane.
Methane?
No,
Oh, sorry.
not methane.
Unoane. Whatever 5 is.
This is what we call a derivative. So what is the structural and or molecular formula inside that box? How many carbons do you have?
C1.
Oh, it's C1.
It's a methyl.
This is called a methyl group. Okay? It's got 1 carbon, and those are your 3 hydrogens. Because it can't, why can't this be methane? Because what is the formula for methane?
Isn't it a full string?
H.
C or
C1H4.
This is methane, where you'd have carbon to hydrogen bonds. So this one right here, just like this one, this is not a carbon to hydrogen bond like it is here. This is a carbon to what bond? Carbon to carbon bond. Okay? So now what you need to do is think of this sport. Get the little white ball from the tee box into where.
I don't know.
Start clapping. Let's go.
Do you have a baseball on the tee box?
Oh, I didn't hear that part. I just
He used to when he played baseball, he had to have it all.
T-box. Baseball.
So what is the goal in golf?
Put it in the white
You want the lowest number of
You want the
Right.
You want the low number in a
I
row.
notice we have another student missing here, so just okay.
Mr. McKinney.
Yes.
Okay, so you got CHC guys up the one that's he had 5 carbons, hydrocarbons. You start out with what the name of the 5 hydrocarbons are.
Yes.
And then if it has an attachment, like you put
What a dog,
C's,
what a
you'll
dog.
like
Oh, we were on top.
C2H6.
We haven't got that far yet. Okay. So when we think of golf now, you read these hydrocarbons sometimes from left to right, sometimes from right to left. Okay? What happens in golf? Do you want to get, if it's a par, to get a 5 on the hole or a 2? Why a 2? It would be a birdie. Okay? So, for instance, if we're going from left to right, okay? And I think for our presentation that you watched on Thursday with Mr. Paulson, does this look familiar where you put little numbers in here?
Oh, yeah.
Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. Seniors will do that as well. Okay, so that's what happens if you go left to right.
And if it's branching off, you don't need to put a number in that?
Correct, because it's not part of the parent chain. So then, if we go in the opposite direction, the green color, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, do we go left to right or right to left? Right to left. Right to left?
Left to right.
Okay.
Wait. Oh, yeah. Yeah, right to left.
Right to the left.
Okay. If we go left to right, this methyl group is on which carbon?
6.
Is on which carbon?
2.
If we're going left to right,
Oh,
it's on number 5. If we go right to left, it's on which carbon?
2.
So, what number are we going to put here?
2.
And what is it that's branching off of this second carbon?
Let me do it, people. What?
What's this called?
Methyl group. Methane. 2
So now when you put everything together, this is telling you have an alkane, that everything's saturated. This is saying your parent chain is 6 carbons long. This is saying you got a methyl group which has a formula of CH3, just like we wrote there. And then this is telling you where it's at. Okay?
So where'd you get the methyl from again?
What's inside this box here?
CH3.
Okay? So CH3 is derived from methane. It is a derivative.
Okay. Is
That-
there any
that-
different ones that we have to memorize too?
Yep. So front row, are we on the bus?
So far.
Are we sure? Because we see a lot of people nodding our heads yes. We say that we understand. Then we keep going. Then we have no idea what we're doing. Front row, do we really understand?
I get what we just did.
Second row. Third row. Okay. So let's go to, because you are going to, some of these compounds, they will become quite complex. Not with derivatives, but they can get to be tricky. Okay. So in this case, what do you think is your longest continuous chain here?
6.
Yeah, probably 6.
3.
Well, the first thing to do is just count left to right. That's be the first thing to do. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? What happens if you go this way? Obviously you get 6. Maybe this parent chain branches. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Regardless, you went 3 different ways in all 3 directions. Your parent chain is how many carbons?
6.
Okay? So, is this a saturated hydrocarbon?
Yeah, there's no
Yes.
double.
Okay? So, what is the suffix for a saturated hydrocarbon?
Aim.
An alkane that ends in ane. Okay?
So be a hexane again?
Okay? So, ane.
You could say that.
So, what is your parent chain?
6.
So, what is your prefix for 6?
Hex.
Okay? Now, does anything branch off of that hexane?
Yeah, 2 carbons.
Yes. So 2 carbons, one way to look at that is the simplest way would be just like what we did up there. What is inside that box? What is the formula inside that box?
C2H.
5. No.
C2H. Okay?
It's only 5 that's taken out.
Okay. Some of you are saying H6. Why can it not now, why can it not be H6? Because remember, why did we put a circle around this? Because what type of bond is this? Carbon to carbon bond. Okay? Is this a carbon to carbon bond?
No, it's a hydrogen to hydrogen.
This carbon to this carbon, is this a carbon to carbon bond?
Yeah.
Okay? So what do you have inside this box? How many carbons? 2.
Wait, oh, 2.
How many hydrogens?
5.
5.
Okay? Because this derivative comes from what? If a methyl group is derived from methane, an ethyl group is derived from ethane. Okay? So what is this derivative called? Not, and it's got an alcohol in it. OH group.
Ethane.
This is ethane.
Yeah. No,
The time.
This is not ethane.
Ethine.
Ethyl.
That's
This is an ethyl group. Okay? Notice that this was a methyl group, so then this must be an ethyl group, and is. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
So now, I'm going to run out of space here. So where is that ethyl group located on?
3.
Okay? Is anyone confused on where that 3 is coming from?
Go right to left.
If we go left to right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we go right to left, 1, 2, 3. So if we're going that way, it's 4. If we go this way, it's 3.
And you pick the direction that's smaller.
You pick the direction that.
Wait,
Okay.
okay, so we got ethyl because like,
I'll just put
so you know how methyl is 1 less than
Then you're supposed to be
methane,
Mhm.
right? And so ethyl comes from ethane because it's 1 less.
That's correct.
And then, so for propane, if it was H or C3H7, would it be? What would that be? Would that have to?
You're about to say it, I bet. It's not propane, because that's C3H8. So C3H7. What do we notice as a pattern? 1 carbon derivative is called a methyl group. A 2 carbon derivative is called an ethyl group. So possibly a 3 carbon derivative is called propyl.
Propane.
Be
I
pro-
didn't know how it would-
we don't do propyl groups in here. We save that, at least I believe we don't. Okay? So,
So is that for college then, or?
no, you do that as a junior. And then as a senior, then you do the butyl groups. Okay,
Okay.
yes.
You added a carbon to the right side. All the way on the gap. What direction would you pick then?
Then it doesn't matter. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's right in the middle.
You can pick away either way.
Either way. Okay? So now,
I just can't put a dot
Where is that ethyl group located on? Which carbon?
The third.
Okay, so what are we going to write here? 3-ethyl hexane. So again, what you can do is what we call reverse engineer this. I don't know how many times we've said this. What is that telling you inside that box? That's an alkane. And an alkane is telling you that the hydrocarbon is unsaturated or saturated? It's completely saturated. What is this telling you? You got 6 carbons. What is this telling you?
There is 5 hydrogens.
True?
You better have got us a drink.
And
There's 2.
2 has something to do with it.
There's 2 going off the main chain. There's 2
Correct.
other carbons.
We've established that right here. Okay? And then where is that ethyl group located?
On the third carbon.
Right here.
how come they,
I know
okay,
that would go from
why
left
did
to
they,
right, but
when they were doing this, why did they have us switch it? So if they were going left and,
Because these are oriented in 3 dimensions.
So it doesn't matter.
okay.
That's why. Okay? So, of the upper right-hand corner, or on the right side here, can we erase this?
Yeah.
Okay, just give us a little more room so we're not confused. Okay. Of these 3, which one do you think is probably going to be the most confusing? The bottom one might be the most confusing. But which one do you think people are going to make the biggest mistake on? The top one. The top one is tricky. It doesn't look like it is, but it is tricky. Okay?
Would it be the number like they put before?
So if you have that impression that it's not tricky, follow the pattern that we've been doing this entire time. Find your longest continuous chain.
The top one, which is 4.
Okay? So what is the prefix for 4-carbon compound? Okay? Is this saturated? So if it's saturated, it's a what?
It's an alkane.
Okay?
What if it's unsaturated?
And then that means there's a double bond if it's unsaturated.
What was the prefix at the end?
It'd be butene or butine.
No, it's butane.
Okay. So then, do we have anything left to do on this?
Oh,
There's
yeah.
the 1 carbon going off the main chain.
We have a methyl.
Okay?
No? Yeah. On the first carbon.
So you would write this.
Would it be the first one? Would it be the total?
Is this what we would believe it to be?
Yeah.
No.
Wait.
Get rid of the
Would it
1.
be?
Get rid of the 1. No, you don't have the 1, right? Yeah, get rid of
Put it 2 there.
Would you just put methyl butane because you don't have to write
Okay, so we're saying this.
We were done.
Well,
Okay.
Which distance would you?
No, minus, negative.
Remember, we had said that it would be my belief this one would be the one where almost everyone, everyone that's 100% wrong.
4 methyl butane. I'm gonna say that.
Okay, this is why. You need to the longest what? Chain.
Oh,
And notice we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
there's 5 of them.
So in this case, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So would it be
There are no alkyl derivatives, okay? Careful. You can put a halogen on the first carbon, and there you would have to put a 1 on there, but not if it's a methyl group. So this, then, is not any butane compound.
methyl?
Pentane.
just known as pentane. That's it. That is pentane.
So if there's a C on the right side, the last one on the top,
It's part of the parent chain.
it'd be something completely different.
Okay, repeat your question again.
So if you put a C on the all the way on the right side, would it be a completely different one?
Now you got 2-methylpentane. That would be 2-methylpentane now. Okay. Okay. Is anybody just total? Okay, front row. Do we understand this? You say yes, yes.
Yes.
Second row.
Somewhat. Period.
Third row. So we see some people nodding their head yes. So do we really, really understand this? Yes.
We understand it. So how come there's no like
Because
For this?
pentane, if you look at pentane's formula. It's C5H12, and that's the same as that up there. So you
Okay.
have to put the metal.
So to answer your question, okay, notice this was not on the end, because if it's on the end, it's part of the parent chain. That's why this is just a bent molecule of pentane. Okay, so I think we'll save the rest of that for tomorrow. And I understand some of you are gone tomorrow, so you can see if you do not keep up on this, it is going to knock you down and knock you down very quickly.
If it doesn't kill me, it makes me stronger.
Okay, the last thing I want to do is just illustrate this.
If it shall
Okay.
not kill, it shall make strong.
If it shall not kill, shall make strong. Wait.
Page 12.
I just. I didn't fail, I passed.
We have discussed that today. We have discussed that today. A special hexane.
A real one. A menthol hexane.
No,
An ethyl hexane.
no.
It's a ring hexane.
What was a ring structure is fairly close.
It's a
What was the last thing we talked about today on the overhead?
hexyl hexane.
No, no. The last thing we talked about. We talked about benzene. So this is a ring structure, and what happens in ring structures where lines intersect or come in contact, that is a carbon atom. So
Where you can get benzene at?
maybe from a scientific supply company, but I doubt it. So what is the formula? We see 6 carbons. How many hydrogens are there?
All these.
I bet you can get it on the dark web, Tom.
Yeah, H6.
C6H6. That is benzene. So that's where we'll stop. You've got to stay current on this. And what can you do if you are struggling with this? Find an upper class, especially seniors. They can probably help you the best with this. Juniors maybe can, but seniors would probably be the best. Okay, we'll catch up to you next time.